Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm Head of Sales and Marketing at the Institute of Sales Management. I'd like to welcome you all to this live webinar. I'd like to welcome in no particular order. I don't actually know where they are on my screen, but there's Emma Bennett. She's a sales manager at Bennett Chemicals, Jane Hemmings from EMS-CHEMIE, and Jonathan Finch from Sales Geek, who I always get confused with his partner, Richard. So if I do call him Richard throughout this webinar, just roll with it. I'd like to thank them for their time in coming together for this. I believe this is the first time I've actually all got together, unless I'm mistaken, to come together and talk about a topic they've decided to come back on. And the topic for today is the biggest opportunities and threats that the return to work will hold for the sales industry. Now, the format of this webinar is going to be a couple of questions, which will take us up to about 30 minutes or 40 minutes in. Then we'll open up to questions, and then we'll do wrap-ups, and then that will be it. So to kick things off, one of the things I've been looking at in the press and things like that is that there's an element of not being able to go back to business as usual. When this is all over, will coronavirus change the way we spend, work, shop for goods or services long after the virus's history, or will things change for the worse? Or you just don't know. Will you abandon city centre offices, or will people permanently be working from home? And that's a lot of discussions that we'll be covering today. So the first question I'm going to ask is to John. John, do you see an increase in virtual meetings going to shape or break the new sales process? How do you see virtual meetings impacting the sales process before COVID and after COVID? What's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, the sales process for me is going to be whatever we make of it. I mean, moving forward, we're going to pretty much be able to design our own sales process, which is going to mean, from an industry perspective, it gives us a lot of advantages. We were trying to use Zoom quite a lot within our sales process before COVID, and would often get, oh no, we don't use Zoom. We'll have to have a face-to-face meeting. So that sometimes meant you jump in the car for 2 hours, drive somewhere, and be sat in someone's offices before you could really properly qualify them, unless you could use the phone. Having Zoom and having Microsoft Teams is going to shape that for us. For us as a business and for our clients, it's making a huge difference in the way that we're qualifying people. I think it's very easy to get someone now onto Zoom or on a Microsoft Teams meeting for an hour, half an hour to do that qualification piece. So that's going to cut down a huge amount of time for us moving forward. When it comes to the sales process, it means that we can be spending more time in person. I think we will still be spending time in person, obviously not at the moment, but we will still be spending more time in person, but probably be with the clients who are going to be our big spenders, our more key accounts, or the ones that have got potential to be bigger key accounts. So there's a lot of advantages for me within the sales process moving forward. I think while it's not going to be easy for the next few months, because there's going to be a bit of unsurety about how that sales process is going to map out, and it's something that we're helping a lot of people with at the moment, actually map out what the new process will be when we don't know what the new process will be. But I think using Zoom and using meetings like that are phenomenal. There's a lot of different advantages that you get to that. The biggest one that I found, and I didn't anticipate this being a huge one, but it's been massive, is the ability to get 2 or 3 decision makers that might be based all across the world on one call. And previously, it might have took me 2 or 3 months to get those 3 people in one room for me to be able to go in and speak to all of them. Or I've got to have individual meetings, then try and collate all that together. So I suppose in answer to your question, yes, there is some huge advantages to it. And I think moving forward, the companies and business sales executives that are going to be embracing the new technology and really rolling with it and going, this is something new that we're going to have to learn and we're going to use properly, I think are going to absolutely fly. I do think there's going to be an issue with some organizations who are going, we need to go back to normal. Is there ever going to be a back to normal? Might be parts of it, but I think there's a lot of advantages there as well.
I'd love to be a shareholder of Zoom, because didn't they have 1 billion users? I read somewhere in the press that their usage went from 0 to hero in about 72 hours.
If I could go back and get some shares in anyone, it would be Zoom at the start of COVID. I think that would be my biggest investment.
A couple of months, yeah. So how quickly did you adapt to it, John? I mean, because pre-COVID, I'm assuming you were going out doing physical meetings. There must have been a point where you're a little bit business to Emma and Jane, where you're almost like a sales consultancy, aren't you, as well as a sales training business. So how quickly did you adapt to meet the needs of your customers compared to how you prepared for it before? Was there a quick switch, or did you gradually realize, well, hang on a minute, we need to do this? Or did you have something in place?
For us, we already had stuff in place. I mean, we are obviously based up north, but we do quite a lot of work down south in London. So we were already pretty much set up from a Zoom perspective to do that. So for us, being honest, it was a complete switch, both from a delivery perspective, because we've got clients down in London and locally that we couldn't see face to face anymore. So we had to find a different way of servicing them, which was through Zoom. We were already doing that with certain clients, but a lot of the time you might say to someone down in Birmingham or London, so did you want to do the sessions over Zoom? And they go, oh no, we don't really like that. Where because there was no other option, a lot of people got on board with that, which has meant a lot of advantages for us as a business. We can now work globally. I mean, we've got clients now in the US when previously we were mainly UK based. So it's opened up a huge ability for us to go further. But it's also, I think, we've actually increased our pipeline amount during this time. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't flowed as quickly as that pipeline normally would. But through the ability to reach out to more people and work globally now, that's actually really helped us fill and fatten that pipeline, which we're very confident over the next few months. We're already seeing that over the last couple of weeks, things flowing through that. But that was a quick switch, quick decision that we made, getting in contact with all of our clients, saying, we're still here for you, you need us. Something we're advising sales professionals to do in businesses that we're working with as well. Get in contact with your clients, let them know you're still here. You're just going to potentially service or be operating with them in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm.
Emma, what's your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. We were prepared. We have a really good IT department. So I was trying to get our sales team about 6 to 9 months ago to start having group chats, and we thought maybe WhatsApp. So we were all set up WhatsApp, but then the IT, they were one step ahead of us. They said, oh, try Teams. So we had Teams in the background, and we saw the advantages of using it. But it wasn't until COVID, and then we were able to get buy-in from the teams, but we also able to get buy-in from the management as well, because you've got some of the managers, they've never used platforms like Teams, and as you said, they're used to selling a certain way. So I think it made everyone buy into it and actually investigate and think of all the benefits it has, and it's been absolutely brilliant. As John said, I can now speak to my key accounts, which have got European decision-making units. You can get a few people on the phone rather than having to travel to Switzerland or wherever for a meeting. You're finding, I think customers are open to have meetings with you now, and they're sharing more information because you've got the share screens and stuff. So I'm finding it, a complete benefit. It's been brilliant. I think it's preparing for the meetings.
Exactly.
IT departments in most industries have been heroes. Because
they have, yes.
The only thing I've always ever thought they do is turn it off and on, but now they're actually
exactly. And I think the main thing was how quickly we can mobilize the sales team and the internal staff to work from home, and then we just saw that there was no kinks in the chain. Everybody worked from home from day one, up and running meetings. And then what we found now, I think it's for a sales team, I think it's brought us closer together, because we're having daily meetings, catch up face-to-face meetings with the field sales representatives who you don't usually speak to. You're on the phone, but it's been nice to have everybody face-to-face and having discussions. We're using it on a professional basis, but then at the end of the week we're using for a bit of a laugh and a joke, just to de-stress from the rest of the week. And it's been really good to to cement the relationship with the sales team in these challenging times.
If someone drinks too much in one of those meetings as well, it's easy to kick them off, which is better than being face.
Well, you don't know, because they've got a cup, haven't they? They have it in a mug, pretending they're on tea.
Got to be careful who sets up the meeting, because that's kick all these people on.
I think it's
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's very important with regard to the training of using this. I think it's a great tool, and a lot of people are not very confident with it. So I think it's really important, like you said, Emma, not only using it to talk to customers, clients, etc., but also to communicate with the team, so they get familiar, they're more confident, they can use it better, and it's just the basic training that really needs. Everyone needs that help, and I think it's just that's how you need to start working and sharing it with your teams, and giving them the confidence then to go out and approach external connections.
Well, before COVID kicked off, I mean, what was your standard? Here's a question to all of you. I don't know who wants to take this first, but what was your standard sales pipeline? What was the standard time frame from pitching to sale versus pitching to sale under COVID? Has that changed?
I like that. Well, for me, I work in commodity chemicals. So we don't have such a long pipeline. It's a matter of, you know, quoting the price, getting the order. So for me, it hasn't changed that much. Maybe the development work going forward, but then that's another question in itself. It's how do you do a technical sale when you're not actually with the customer and you're not looking, you know, at the formulations, or you're not looking at their processes. It is difficult. And I think that is something that, you know, needs a bit more investigation, how we will be able to do that.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on shorter pipelines, or is it just
Yeah, I think in regards to ours personally, I mean, our sales process definitely lengthened. We did put a lot of work into filling the hopper. I think one of the things that we were advising people at the start of lockdown was don't stop filling that hopper, don't stop marketing, and don't stop selling. People are still out there, still paying attention to what you're doing. And even though they might not be buying at this particular second in time, they will at some point come back. It might take 2 months, might take 3 months. So we made a real effort to make sure that we're still filling that hopper and we still got stuff coming in. But we also mapped out to start with and went, we probably aren't going to close anywhere near as much business within this 2-3 months period. But I think some businesses and some sales professionals have found it very difficult, because if you've been on furlough or if you've not been able to fill that hopper, there is going to be a real chance when you get back, you're going to have to hit the ground running. You're really going to have to hit that hard to fill that back up. So stuff that you've not spoken to, if you've been on furlough, might have gone a bit stagnant. I think the first piece of advice I'd give anyone who's coming back from furlough or coming back into work, if you're looking at your sales pipeline at the moment and what you've got in there, the first port of call isn't to go out and find fresh stuff. Look after your existing clients, the ones that you might not have spoken to in the last couple of months, and also make sure you get back on top of the deals that you had in the pipeline that you haven't been able to speak to. They may still be there, and they will probably be your easiest and quickest wins to create some momentum back in your pipeline.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, sorry, Jane.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's all about support, about support, sharing knowledge. Everybody is so nervous, so apprehensive about their own personal situations, their companies, their jobs, everything. I think this is definitely a time to work together, find collaborations where you can work together. At the end of the day, there's lots of us in lots of industries have got the same goals, and we could actually, working together, we could get there a lot quicker. And the collaboration is definitely needed now. We should sit together, support everybody, and our customers don't need pressure of any kind. You know, they need support, answers to some questions that they're in such a turmoil at the moment, they can't think. And we're there, we've got the experience. So, you know, from our point of view, we sell and offer solutions. So that's what we're there. We help to talk to them, and being able to talk to them through this way is great. And like you said, Emma, speak to the people that you need to speak to very quickly, quite easily. And that's why it's really important to train everybody to be able to have that ability to do that.
And I do think that when you say that you need to understand your customers, I think you do. You need to put more focus on the understanding of your customer. You know, what are their challenges in the market? You know, do SWOT analysis and have a look at that market and that industry sector. Look for trends, and then understand, you know, pain points that the customer may have, and then you can bring that to the meeting. You know, the customer may not feel comfortable discussing that with you, but then if you have an understanding of the industry and the challenges, you know, you can bring that to the meeting, and it might just, you know, open them up to talk to you a bit more. You know, it's going to be a more consultative sell rather than the usual transactional one when you're just on the phone or you're just bobbing in for a cup of tea and speaking to your customers. It's now, we need to focus, we need to be more consultative, and we need to help the customers with their problems. And then this is where I think you'll get more added value from your pipeline. You know, with the service option, it may not just be a straight product that you're going to sell. As Jane said, you're going to sell a service.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, we have to be creative. We have to be more creative, and we have to have that flexibility to look at individual customers and their needs, and be a bit flexible, create something that's suitable for them, that's going to help them and help us in the end.
Yeah, Definitely.
I think it was one of the things that we were talking about the other day, sort of in preparation for this, though, was it's not about at the moment completely reinventing the wheel. You don't need to go out and completely redo everything that you know from a training perspective, how you're selling to clients. A lot of the basics of what we're doing, adding value to people, showing that we're the best person to work with them by really giving true value to them. That hasn't changed. Just the way that we're doing that, the way that we're communicating has slightly changed because we're doing it behind the screen. I'll just concentrate. There's a couple of questions I think dropped.
We'll get to questions. We can get to questions with sort of 30 minutes, after 30 minutes or so. But we'll plow through these, and we'll go back. Some of those questions, if we miss any, we'll get the presenters to ask them. But Jane, you mentioned something about you talked about caring, not only caring for your staff, but caring for your customer, and talking about the caring element. Isn't there a risk of, I'm feeling it a little bit, the drain of technology, not being able to step away from it, the fact that you're glued. I mean, I was already glued to it already. I have enough WhatsApps to kill a horse, but it's kind of, I'm just, how do you manage your own, I guess we're verging, I guess, into the sort of mental health aspects of being too addicted to technology. You see all the government adverts about controlling your kids' screen time, and yet here we are doing videos. I mean, how do you manage that, and how do you look after yourself, not only yourself but your teams as well?
Okay, well, I think it's really important to prepare for these events. So if you're going to make these visual meetings, you need to prepare for them. So it's not all about sitting on using technology. You need to go away, just like get some research on the client that you're going to be talking to. Make sure you've got all the information that you need prior to the meeting, so that the time that you're on live with that person over the meeting, it's the time's being utilized. You've got everything there ready. So you may only spend half an hour, but you've got a lot of information put over to the customer. So I don't think this tool is actually something that needs to be used constantly for X amount of hours a day. You need to do a lot of preparation, and you need to have clarity on what that customer, because if you've done your research, you'll know exactly what that customer needs anyway. So you spend that time, and then when you go live onto the user technology, it's precise. It's 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And the people that are around and on live on that meeting, you're not wasting their time. It's quite precise. So I think, it's not about just sitting on there for hours and hours and hours. It's giving your team the information to prepare and get all the relevant information ready for the meeting.
Okay. I think when we're talking about the way that the sales process evolved through this as well, there's a lot of benefits to it, but one of them is that we can have, previously, if I was going to go meet a client down in London to go and talk about their training needs, for example, I'd take 2 hours down there. I'd probably spend half a day with that client, speaking to the staff, speaking to the leadership team, actually finding more stuff out from them. Then I'd come back and put a proposal together. What it's actually meant for us is we can split that up into a number of smaller meetings. So your sales process has got more points into it, which can be a real benefit because you can engage more people at different points within that. But it does also mean that, say, for example, what would have been a 5-hour meeting is now 5 1-hour meetings. There's 5 different touch points there where you can lose control of that deal. So there's probably been no more important time ever in the last 100 years where it's been so important for you to make sure you're looking at those next steps within the sales process. Because unless you've got those nailed down with the client, because you've got 5 touch points rather than one big one that you're going to do down there face to face. So just making sure that, talking about preparation for that, if you're going to prepare for those individual meetings, make sure you're preparing for the next steps as well, and making sure that the clients know what the next steps are, because it's very easy to lose control of a deal when you're not physically booking a meeting in front of someone. You're just waiting for them to turn up on the Zoom invitation.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, the way it's evolved over the last few years, like going back 15 years when I was on the road, I didn't have a sat nav, that's been evolved. We've evolved, haven't we? And then all of a sudden, we've got sat navs, we're not out on the road, and all of a sudden, bang, we're doing virtual calls. Who'd have thought a year ago you'd be preparing and doing all your calls virtually? So I think as a leader, I think there needs to be a structure that you give to your sales team of, you know, how you want them to present to the customers. You've mentioned, John, you know, your 5 touch points. What would those touch points be for each individual account manager? How do the account managers know what these touch points are and what you actually want them to get out of the meeting? So I think, you know, there should be a structure and a strategy in place that you for you to empower the sales team so they've got that confidence. You know, you've got to think about they've changed the selling style, they've got the personal issues around COVID, they're working from home. So it's quite, you know, it's a perfect storm in a way. So we've got to be there to support their well-being, to ensure that they're confident, and then they know how to progress the sales.
I think it's inclusion, isn't it? You know, to bring them in and on board and to listen to their ideas and to look at the structures, the team structures. You know, we've all got strengths, weaknesses, but if you look, we might have to restructure, might have to look at things. We might have to try new things that we've never done before, but that's good. That's a positive, and I think we all have to be open-minded with that.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry, I was just saying, I think that there's that much knowledge within your sales team, and I don't think we utilise it as much. You know, we've got the younger account managers coming through. You know, they know technology, they know how to do this, and we've got the older ones who are not used to this type of technology. Let's use everybody's skills within the business. You know, share success stories, best practices. Speak to the younger salespeople. How do they speak on video calls? And you know, it just might be everybody's helping in and sharing knowledge. And I think that, as you say, Jane, that is the main and most important thing.
Of course. Sorry. I was just saying, you touched on, you know, we have various stages. People are in various stages of their careers. Lots of experience. We've got young who are not quite as experienced. And there's going to be some real difficult steps to make for both. And I think as long as we all remember that and we keep everybody on that same platform and we share and we pick up, we learn from one another. And I think that's really important now more than ever before. There's going to be some people who are a little bit reluctant to, oh, I've never done that before. I've got no idea about technology. You know, I'm one of those people. It's like really difficult. You know, I was a bit like, oh, you know, this is very new. This is very different. But actually, it's really good. I really enjoy it, and I can see so many benefits from it. And that, I think that it's looking at people's mindsets and trying to influence and help them to understand, like you said, Emma, before, understand the benefits. Yeah. So it's quite exciting.
One of the things that I definitely made a mistake with when COVID first started hitting and everyone went into lockdown was I was spending too much time literally staring at a screen. So I was trying to do the same amount of one-to-ones with clients, team members, as I would do normally, and doing that face-to-face, you get a lot of energy back from it. When you're sort of giving it to a screen, you're sort of hitting a blank screen. Doesn't matter who's on the other side of it, it is more difficult. One of the things that I started planning in was doing going for a walk with my headset in. So rather than telling the client we're going to do this on a Zoom call, not everything needs to be on Zoom. I know everything needs to be, you know, we're doing things on Zoom or Microsoft Teams now. Not the case for me. I get reasonably good phone signal around my area, so putting my headphones in, I'm telling the person, listen, when we have this meeting, I'm going to go for a walk. If you want to do the same, put your headphones in, you go for a walk, I'll go for a walk. I get a lot more out of those meetings because I'm normally, when I'm on the phone in the office, I am stood up. I walk around all the time. It drives everyone else in the office nuts. But now I'm completely sat in front of a screen talking to people like this. So it has made quite a difference for certain meetings. There's certain clients where you might need to do a screen share or you might need to present something, but there's also a lot of clients or a lot of staff members that you could do that with and say, would you want to go for a walk? I'll go for a walk as well. We don't need to see each other and let's chat this through over an hour. I found that a heck of a lot more productive for certain calls. Sometimes that's one-to-ones with staff members within Sales Geek, or sometimes that's client calls. But I found that a lot more productive than just constantly staring at a screen all day.
Yeah. Sorry, Emma, you carry on.
Sorry. That's such a good idea because within my company before COVID, we are very much involved in the well-being of our staff. So, you know, we have a yoga room and stuff and a chill out room for people. And for me, for my sales team, I always say to them, if you start to feel a bit anxious or a bit stressed about anything, go for a walk, go and cool off. So that's
your chill out room like. Sorry to cut in. What are your chill out rooms like at the physical office? I think that's going to be my chill out room at the moment is staring down at a black Labrador hoping he doesn't come on me. But I mean, I've heard all sorts of things, like Google has like an indoor slide and like all these sorts of things. What do you have? Do you have a gaming room? What do you have? Because that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. Well, we have quite a large attic space. So our senior management team have put in a yoga space. We have tables for jigsaws. We have bean bags. And then we even have a yoga instructor coming in once a week at lunchtime. So people can use the lunchtime to go up and have a yoga lesson. And it's been absolutely brilliant. And I think it's brought so much to the staff to know that the company is that caring, that they are thinking about well-being. And the productivity is so much better. You know, the stress levels are coming down and people don't feel guilty to have a lunch hour. And I think sometimes you do when you're in a busy sales environment, you feel, you know, I need to wait for food, but no, you know, your well-being is important. You need to go and sometimes just take a break from it, go up, just put your headphones in or something. And, you know, I say that to the team, even, you know, through the day, if you feel that you know, you've just had a bad call or something, go put your headphones in, go for a walk or go make a coffee. And it's making them aware that they can do it. It's okay to do it. We're not going to think bad of them. You know, they should not feel anxious for having 5 minutes to de-stress.
I think Emma, that is really important now more than ever when we're working remotely. I think about, you know, our teams to sort of feel guilty. Oh, sorry, I didn't get the phone. I was just, you know, I was just away from it. It's okay. It's okay to go get a coffee. And in fact, what we do is we'll have a catch up, and I say to them, I insist that they get a coffee and go and stand in the garden, and we talk over the phone. We have a conference call just to get away from the screen. So, you know, it's very much about trust. You know, your team is trying to go. You talked about Adam, about mental health and everything. These individuals are trying to keep and hold their jobs down. We're all going through this terrible situation that we're all in. And I think we just they need reassurance that it's okay to sit and take 5. It's okay if you are dealing with the children or the dog barking at the postman and you're away from your computer. You know what I mean? And because if you've got good people around you in your team, they will put in the hours. And if there's breaks in a working day for whatever personal reason, that's fine. Yeah. That's okay. And I think there are some people who find that really strange, you know. And I think, again, it's all about, it's okay to do that. Well, we trust you.
Yeah, definitely, because I found that with our team, you know, people are so conscientious, so hard work, and they, as you say, they don't want people to think, obviously, if they're not doing the job. We know they are doing the job.
Exactly.
So what we did was we had a team meeting and we set a rota, and people were doing like the red and green system. So they put, if they've got any times throughout the day where they need to be away from the desk, or, you know, childcare, it could be anything, they put a red block in, so we know that. And then it's put their anxiety down too, because it's down on a schedule. They know it's okay, and it's trying to get that culture, isn't it, to, as you say, to say it is okay. You know, these are exceptional times, and we've all got things going on.
That's always one of the things that I think we've struggled with in the sales industry, to be honest, and just across all companies, is the ability as a salesperson to put your hand up and go, do you know what, I'm not all right? Because it's often you've sold yourself into that company interview, and by saying I'm not all right to your manager can mean you say, I can't do my job, which is, as a salesperson, we're all here to generate revenue, and is a difficult thing to do. And the one thing that I think we are getting much better at is the ability to do that. And, you know, the more that we're talking around mental health, the more that we're talking around how we're feeling ourselves. And I think the other part of this is around flexible working for me. I mean, my day now is completely upside down. Sometimes I finish at 3 o'clock, but I'll start at 5 in the morning. And a lot of the stuff that I'll do between 5 and 9 is actually the most productive. I've got no emails pinging, I've got no Zoom calls. I can really get my head into something with no distractions. But that's a huge thing, sort of benefit really, that I would never have done before. If I was going up to the bunker, if I was going to get up early here, I'd do some jobs around the house, then go to work and be in the Geek bunker there. But I think that's really going to change moving forward. And I don't know how you guys have handled that with your team, but around flexibility of it, because if someone does have kids or they've got things that they need to do at home, it doesn't mean that they can't do their job within that time frame.
Well, there's a friend of mine. He's a lawyer at one of the big 5 law firms in London. I'm not going to mention which one because then they'll probably be after me. But they have something called, I'm sure some organizations are aware of this, but they have something called timesheets, which is basically, as lawyers, because they bill out, they have to do their timesheets as to what they've been doing and when. And what the HR manager, the head of HR, is that everyone is a little bit like you, John. They're doing work at sort of 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then sleeping like a Mexican and then waking up at 3 o'clock and then running through till 6. It's all, there's that famous quote, isn't it? It's not what you do, but what you do in the time you've got. Don't measure, I'm busy. Measure results, and that's certainly true of salespeople. I was a bit concerned that you have a bunker.
The Geek bunker, yeah. Flipping heck. I mean, you have to come up sometime. We've got a great beer fridge.
There you go. Go to studio, fridges.
Well, we've been talking, and indeed, within the first 10 minutes, as John rightly mentioned, while he sips a beer, I don't know what that was you were just drinking, but hey ho.
Very lemonade.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah. The questions were flying in. And obviously some of these questions were asked when we were talking about other topics and things like that. I'm going to ask some. These are completely unscripted. These questions that people come in. If there's some here that you guys aren't comfortable with answering, we'll answer those at the end, maybe when the recording's ended, and I'll get you guys to email them personally. But working from the bottom up, which is probably the best way to go, because those are the first ones that came in. First question that came in: with people now embracing technology, how do you think territory sales will develop or change? Who would like to take that one?
I'll take that one. For us, I think you can take on more accounts, I think, because you've not got that travel time now, so there's more focus on accounts. So I think now key account management, I think, as I mentioned before, it's going more just one decision-making unit. It's going European. So I think it's definitely going to help. I think that there's room for development in the smaller accounts now, because, a lot of these accounts sometimes are not justified to travel to them because they've not got the revenue there, they're not the margin. But now I think, because you've not got the expenses of running the car down there and overnight stays, I think you'll be able to get more, and I think we will become more proactive in business development at these smaller accounts. So I think it's going to be quite positive.
There's been a great debate raging on LinkedIn at the moment as to, is the term field sales ever going to exist again? Because realistically, I think field sales will exist, and I do think we're going to have this elite of sales professionals who are out there doing face-to-face meetings. Yeah. But I do think we'll re-engineer the way that we're doing that. It will only be certain larger accounts or certain accounts that we're predicting that we could grow that will need to be done face-to-face. I mean, there's always certain accounts that we've got that I would never ever want to lose that face-to-face relationship with, and we have done through COVID. But as soon as we're out of this, I want to pick it up again. The people I really enjoy spending time with. But I suppose on the other side of things, there's also clients from my perspective that I'm pretty sure are going to say to me, "Shall we carry on doing this over Zoom? It's working for us. It's working for you. We don't have to pay your travel, your expenses, so it works a lot better." So, is field sales ever going to go back to what it was? I don't think so. I think it's going to really shift moving forward, and we're going to have to adapt with that.
Has anyone on the call been a field sales manager?
Say again, sorry.
Yeah, that's part of my role now. I've got account managers which are out on the road and in the field. So yeah, so it has been. It's now the account managers are taking on more of a business development role than account management, because they are looking for new opportunities all the time. They are finding that customers who never wanted to see them will actually speak to them over the phone now, because it's easier for them. It's easier to book calls. And I think with customers now working from home, they're in the same situation as us. I think you're actually getting more out of the call. People are willing to talk to you now. And, you know, I've had big key accounts, you know, I've never been able to get hold of them properly. Speak to them, you're on the phone for about 45 minutes, just chatting about the day and, you know, their experience through COVID. So that's building all the relationships up. And I think, yeah, it's really positive.
Yeah, I think this is an ideal time to do exactly that, to speak to people that normally they can't see the wood for the trees as such, because they're firefighting, they're really busy days, they haven't got the time. Whereas everybody's in the same boat here.
Mm-hmm.
They have got the time to sit and talk to you. And it is relatively easy now to make a phone call or to make a Zoom call, or it is quite easy than spending 2-3 hours on the motorway stuck in traffic trying to get to them. So I think there's lots of benefits here, and we need to embrace that.
Yeah,
it is easy, but it's incredibly. It can be incredibly disheartening. I had a couple of Zoom calls earlier this week, and the backgrounds were, well, they weren't a kitchen. One background was Table Bay in Cape Town. Another background was the hills of California. I mean, I want a background of Bognor Regis or something, you know. Really depressing. Do you have any other? I've got another question for you guys, but do you have anything else on that before I go to the next one?
no.
Nope. Okay, so one of the questions was, what are your experiences at the moment when customer payments are outstanding, or you're chasing payments, and you're trying to do it over the phone or over video? How has it changed? What are the challenges? How do you even approach it? What techniques do you use? I've
come across that quite often now. I think customers are looking to defer their payments, you know, to 90 days from 30 days. You know, they want to give you maybe half this month, half next month, but it's having that relationship with your customer, with the buyer. You know, speaking, because I think what I find is the credit control department who actually chases these speaks to the credit control. Some buyers aren't, you know, necessarily aware of it. The buyer needs to have the deliveries for production and manufacturing. So it's having that relationship with the buyer and then speaking to the buyer to see if he can help. And I think once he understands, you know, the issues, and then I think understands, you know, you've still got to pay your suppliers as well. You know, you can't turn around to your supplier and say, I can't pay. And I think it's having that dialogue with them and showing them that, you know, you're in the same boat, and, you know, maybe you will need to accommodate or compromise and, you know, and help, because you don't want to ruin the relationship, but also you've got bills to pay as well. So it's that fine line, isn't it? I think it is about the relationship and being open and honest with your customers.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. It talks about, I guess, the mental health side of things. When virtual meetings end, as ours will, and I'll wave, and you just get the blank screen, which is quite underwhelming, and you miss out on that walk out the office chat. Any advice on bringing that personal side of it into the virtual world? I think John will be able to jump on this.
This might not answer this question, but I think we'll probably tie in with it. I completely agree that there is an element of you miss that face-to-face contact, you walk out and the screen just goes blank. And I did a podcast with someone the other day, and at the end of it, we both pressed end at the end of this podcast, and the whole thing went blank. And I went, oh, Bennett, I didn't even get a chance to thank them, to say thank you for doing the podcast with me. One of the best ways that you can follow up after something like that doesn't necessarily have to be straight away, but if you can follow up 2 or 3 hours later with a little personalized video to send to that person, that will absolutely put you leaps and bounds above the competition. If you're putting something forward, a proposal to a client, and you're using video within that, it is a really personal way, but a way of not necessarily being too far in someone's face, because you might not want to have a touch point there. You might not need to have a face-to-face meeting, but just dropping them a little WhatsApp with a little video of yourself to saying, hi, such point, really enjoyed the meeting earlier. Big thank you for taking the time to explain a bit more about the business. As I mentioned, I'll do this from my side. I'll make sure that I've done this, and if you could do this from your side, and I'll really look forward to getting back together on Tuesday. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you need anything in the meantime, give me a shout. It's a really nice touch point that you can do after that meeting. So when everything has sort of gone cold there, it's not something you do straight away, but it's another way of keeping yourself in that client's eye line over the next part of that sales process. You might not have another meeting in with them for a week, But within that centre, it's a non-intrusive way of just going, I'm still here. If you need anything, let me know. And we found that those touch points are often when you'll get a response from a client going, actually, yeah, I just did want to check something. Sometimes they'll email it back to you. Not everyone's comfortable on video, or they'll WhatsApp you back going, actually, yeah, could you clarify that bit for me for next time we get together? Which means that next time you get together, they don't go, can you clarify that? You've got to go away and do your thing. You're already at the next point. But video for me is a really good way of making sure that it's not just radio silence during that point. So I don't know whether that answers the question on there as to when it ends.
It's a good tip. I might actually do that after this webinar, guys, so watch out. Right.
Yeah, I think it's really good, a great idea. And I think what we all need to remember is it's really important that we get our personalities over.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're in a face-to-face meeting, you know, you can see the expressions and everything else, and you can talk to them and so on, but and they can get a vibe, a feel of your personality. Whereas the video is a great idea because we're just human, and I think it's really important to. I think there's been a lot in the past. I think sales and some certain generations, it's been quite stiff and formal and very proper, and you know, you can't sort of relax a bit. But I think the way forward is going to be that. I think the way forward is we are human beings. We do have dogs and children and homes and different things that you can see, which is it's never been seen before, really. You are letting that person into your space, and I think it's important that as individual people, and the trust between you and your client, your customers, your team members, everyone that you speak to, they're actually seeing you in your own environment. And I think the video is a way of going, hey, I'm here, you know where I am, you know, talk to me, you can speak to me, you can approach me. I think that's a great thing for sales people, because before it's been very, very formal, very different, you know, and I think we've got, this is going to give us opportunities to break down a lot of barriers.
I think it's a really good way to soften proposals as well, because every now and again, I mean, you do have to send a proposal to a client that is a very formal proposal. They're going to take it to their board meeting and it has to be formal. We use it as part of our proposal system, though, is when we send it out to a client, though, there is always a video accompanying it. We didn't do this as standard previously before COVID. We did it for quite a lot of clients, but not for every single one. But now it's our standard as a business that when we send the proposal out to the client, the first thing that they see isn't the 4 or 5 page essay detailing every bit of it that we're going to do. It's a little video just summarising, hi, big thank you for letting us send the proposal over. I just wanted to talk you through a couple of bits on it. So the first section here you'll see is the exec summary. That's going to have this. You'll then see a little bit more about Team Geek. And it's just a much more friendly way of putting yourself in front. It doesn't work every time. Not every client's going to love that. But it's something that you're not going to lose any credibility by doing. So we'll put you ahead in certain proposals and certain contracts. We did one a little while ago where it was a client I was really struggling to close. It was between us and another provider. It was someone that we were never going to have up the bunker to do training. They weren't going to come to us. We were going to go out to them. But I sent them a little video with a tour of the bunker and went in. We were doing a training session there, introducing some of the trainers. And they just loved the personality from it and said, we know we get on well with you by what your offices are like. Even though we're never going to come there, we could see your values, the way that you operated is very similar to us. So it can be a really, really good just thing to accompany something that's slightly formal that you're going to have to send over. Reflecting
their themselves in you, I guess. Yeah. They're seeing their culture in yours.
Yeah. And one of the things, Adam, you're very good at, whenever you get in contact, I'll send you a text message or a WhatsApp, and I hardly ever get a WhatsApp back, but I will get a voice note back. Voice notes are another thing that are hugely. I mean, as well, I think it comes back to tone of voice in email or in Messenger or in WhatsApp. Something that you put out to someone can be read how they want to read it. If they're on a bad day, they will read it as something that could be aggressive. If they're on a good day, they'll read it as something that could be happy. You can't mistake tone. So whether you're doing that over video or whether you're doing that over voice notes, really good way to keep in contact with your clients as well. So much easier to respond to as well. Really quick way of responding to people.
Definitely. Good ideas.
A couple more questions for me, which are off script. So, you know, see, these salespeople on this call have to adapt, but they'll do it anyway. So salespeople is, what technology are you guys using to track all of this stuff? Because wouldn't it be awesome if you could track a WhatsApp audio recording or WhatsApp video or whatever? How are you, like, what kind of systems are you guys using to track all your activity? Did it change? Has it changed from COVID, or are you using the same one or upgraded it? What are your, that'd be interesting for me to know, because at the moment I'm using Zoho. It's not a plug, it's just something I'm using.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are things in there that we could be using that we're not. What are you guys doing? What's worked, what's not?
It has got, I mean, the sales process from a tech perspective has got more complicated, because previously, I'm guessing, Adam, if you were looking at your sales process, it would have been client gets in contact, we speak to them over the phone, or we have a Zoom call, we then sign them up, and that's the end of our sales process, and then we put them into our client basket. Now you might have 4 or 5 different pieces of technology that touches that client. You've got Zoho that first puts the lead in. You've then got Zoom that you're going to be speaking to them on here. You might have a proposal system above that to send them a proposal. You've then got a system that you're going to put them on now that they're on your learning management system. So what previously was just one system all the way along now has lots of different touch points. There's different ways of integrating those. There's some great plugins that you can use that will pull all of that information into one thing. But it has also meant through this 8-10 week period that we have now got a lot of information resting on different systems. And it was something that we brought up at our board meeting 2 weeks ago. Prior to COVID, it was reasonably simple for us, our process-wise, but now we have to integrate all these other systems, which do add a tremendous amount of value from a client perspective and customer journey, but only if we manage that effectively. Otherwise, if we fail to log on to this system, we lose something here, we lose a touch point. But we use Zoho. Zoho does integrate quite well with the other systems. We use a proposal system that people always love this when we send proposals to them, because whenever they click open on that proposal and start viewing it, it sends me an email going, such a body is on your proposal. They are reading the introduction page. Once they finish the introduction page, it'll then send me a little email or a little note saying they are now reading your costings. And I'll always contact people. As soon as I see that email, if I'm free, I will contact them and start speaking to them. Like, oh, I've just noticed you've read the proposal. Oh, how did you know that? Well, our proposal system tells you that. And everyone goes, do people think that's a bit intrusive? Possibly, but as a sales business, I mean, we help people set this system up. People normally go, that's amazing. How can my salespeople be having that? So for us, it's a big benefit. People don't normally, well, I've never had anyone yet who's gone, that's a bit intrusive. They normally love that tech behind it. But making sure, again, that integrates with Zoho, which manages all our lead flow, is really important. Otherwise, something can end up on the proposal system and I'll go back on it and go, flipping heck, I didn't touch that. That's 3 days ago that person opened that. It's not put it into Zoho, into my tasks to show me to do something. And I'm very unorganized. I don't mind saying horrendously unorganized. So unless something tells me what to do and how to plan my day and I get on top of that, I can end up missing things. So it's really important to integrate those systems.
Jane, Emma, do you have any questions for that? And then we'll
we use Sage CRM, but it's relatively new to the business. So we're still in that process of getting buy-in from the sales team to do it. And at the moment, I think because it's been so busy for us throughout COVID with the amount of leads that are generating, we are getting them to list all the leads on the CRM. But we're also using Teams, on the shared spreadsheets on Microsoft Teams for all the information. So the live documents, and everyone's just adding the information as soon as they get it. But it's taken the complication out, and as you said, John, it's the chain, isn't it? And it's understanding how the team will buy in and what's going to be more user friendly, because sometimes the team are going to get overwhelmed. They've had like 100 leads in the day or whatever it's been. When do they actually have time to update the systems? And so you get to the point where you're taking time away from selling for admin. So it's that fine line, and it's understanding what's the best way to do it. So we're finding at the moment Teams, but we do need to start updating and populating the CRM system to get the pipelines out but it's a slow journey, but it's getting buy-in and getting people used to doing it is a bit of a habit at the moment. But at the minute, I think we've touched on it before. It's not about strategizing; it's about living the day-to-day at the moment through COVID. And I think once we're through that, and we have got time to reflect, get everything updated, and have the time to focus and do it. I think that's where we are at the moment. Hopefully it will get better.
We always sort of say with the CRM, these two things are important. One, how well your CRM is set up to match your processes, and two, how good the information that you're putting into it is. Because if either of those two things aren't working, it works against its it stops the salespeople doing what they need, and they end up flooded with admin. And I mean, we've worked in businesses before where they've got 4 or 5 systems that they have to keep floating between. And just making sure that that whole process reflects how the client wants to buy, because we often set up CRMs. It's human nature to go, how do we want to sell our products? So we set our CRM up like that, looking rather than from the client's perspective. How does the client want to buy? What touch points do they want? But those things are really important when it comes to CRM.
Yeah, I think we are really sorry.
No. I think we've touched on this before. It's just about keeping things really simple. You just got to keep it simple. Be able to look how you've approached, what's been said, what's been done, but just keep it simple. The sales teams don't have time to do all the admin, and a lot of salespeople, it's a fact, don't like admin. But if we keep it simple for them to do and be effective, then everybody's happy. And I think that's important. That's what we've got to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Find a way.
Well, I am going to invite whichever presenter is brave enough to go for it first. A 2-minute wrap up, so sort of a takeaway message for everyone on this webinar who's been watching from all over the world. We've had over 480 subscribers to this thing. And it would be great to get some wrap ups from each of you. So who would like to take that first? Feel like a drum roll.
Yeah, I'll do it. I just think this pandemic has thrown a lot of challenges for everybody. In your personal life, home, and your working environment. And for me, I don't think we'll ever go back to how things were completely. And I think that's not to be. I think we don't need to be scared about that. I think we need to take where we are today. There's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of benefits. I think we need to embrace that, and we need to move forward and build on all the things that we know can make the workplace tomorrow a success, and that's what we need to do. And I think between people who've got experience and some fantastic ideas, we need to be open and listen to them. And the young ones who've got all the technology and their ideas, I think bring them all together. Bring them all together. This is time now for collaboration with colleagues, with customers, sometimes even competitors. We don't need to be. We've all got a lot to get through, and I think it's time that we all sort of came together a bit more.
That's it. Thank you for that.
I think the sales leaders, I think they need to instill confidence in the sales team. I think they need to be approachable. They need to be open to suggestions and ideas, like Jane said. And you've got to understand it is a big change for the sales team. They may have wobbles, but it's anticipating that and understanding that it's not how it was. We do have to, I think, mollycoddle the sales team in a way, just so they've got that experience and that confidence, and they know what's expected of them when they go onto the sales calls and they're speaking to customers. Have a structure in place and make sure everyone buys into it. It could take time. Have brainstorming sessions, get everybody involved, and just make sure everyone's on the same page and they're all focused and happy. And I think that's the main thing. You need a happy, productive sales team to be able to deal with these challenging times.
It's going to actually, one thing before you go on that, you've actually just kick-started the thought in my head is if they're not happy, they're going to leave when COVID ends. It's going to be interesting to see all the new job alerts on LinkedIn when COVID ends, where people are going to go, and what companies done better than others, I guess. John, wrap up, over to you.
Someone gave me a piece of advice at the very start of COVID that really stuck with me, and the piece of advice was there's always an issue in business. Just the one that we're facing at the moment is COVID. It's either summer holidays and we can't sell because it's summer holidays, it's Christmas holidays, we can't sell because it's Christmas holidays, it's a recession, it's COVID. There's always something wrong within pipelines. And I think don't get too caught up within COVID. You know, moving out of this, things are going to unravel. It's going to be the adaptable salespeople and the people who are willing to change and willing to change the processes. The market sector has shifted across all industries, which means our processes and the way that we sell have to shift. Be open for that, be ready for those. It's going to be, I think for those who are ready, it's going to be an absolute glorious time over the next couple of years. For those who aren't ready, it's not. It's going to be a very difficult time for those who aren't willing to adapt. So don't get too caught up in COVID. Focus on what's coming next.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's been absolutely fantastic to have 3 members who probably didn't know who I was about 6 months ago, who are now doing a live webinar with me. Unfortunately, they've all given me their WhatsApp, so we've been WhatsApping each other behind the scenes. They're probably never going to WhatsApp me again after this, but look, they've been absolutely phenomenal. They've all got together at the start. So, you know, do a compliment, but make a joke in the middle is how I tend to roll. But look, in all seriousness, these guys, John, Emma, Jane, unless I'm mistaken, none of you knew each other, right?
Yeah.
Right, and John probably knows everyone, but yeah, I think there was an element of this is what I keep saying on all the webinars. This is what I'm trying to build at the ISM, is getting all our members to talk to each other and create content and come together and just deliver their expertise. We are not the experts. I might work at the ISM, but you are. I just sit in the back. It's all about you, and it's been absolutely fantastic to have you all on board, delivering this, working behind the scenes. Guys, they were working behind the scenes on this. I kept getting emails going, right, this is the new script. This is the new script. Ignore that script. This is the script. But it was fantastic. They all got together, they worked on it really hard, and that's the result. Just under 480 subscribers on this webinar across the globe. So to Jane, Emma, and John, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And forgive John for drinking halfway through the webinar. He tells me it's
I normally wait till 12 o'clock, but today I thought that it's webinar special day.
And to any of the questions we missed or anything like that, I'll get the presenters to email you back directly, so I'll share your details with them. And yeah, so it's a goodbye from me, which will probably end up with then a video from me to the presenters to say thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and it's goodbye from me. John, Emma.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.